What's up, guys? And we're back for another episode of Scaling Secret Podcast, hosted by Otter PR. We're back with the one and only Scott Bartnick, the man, the myth, the legend. Scott,
happy to be here.
How's it going?
Doing good.
So we have a very, very good topic today that I think will intrigue our audience. Why don't you tell them?
Okay, so we're going to talk about scaling your business online. So building that online presence and really growing your reach, whether you're brick and mortar or you sell mostly to digital other agencies.
And then just to clarify for the audience, this is businesses, not like personal brand. Not like if you're a celebrity, you want to be an actor or something.
Yeah, this is focused on B2B, kind of growing that strategy, or B2C, but building your business brand. It also, a lot of things that we'll talk about will translate into social and how you can build your personal, but they kind of tie together.
Correct. Okay, cool. So let's just get right out of the gate. You know, you have a business or you want to start a business and you know how important an online presence is. Where do I begin?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. You start with a website, in my opinion. So you can start your service, whether you have brick and mortar or you're selling one-to-one on friends, whatever that business is, depending on your scale. You know, if you could be doing $100 million but not have a website because you have foot traffic, at that point it's very logical for you to scale to a web platform. So You can do e-commerce, or you can at least advertise there, you can drive traffic there, you can have people learn more about your business. Even if you're a restaurant, you should have some kind of website with some information, menus, digital ordering. Mm-hmm. So the starting place is your home, is your storefront, is your website.
Gotcha. And then we all know a lot of companies that have like a website, but nobody goes to them, right? So that's another component of it. How do we get the website? Like if you create a website, it has a high domain authority or ranks, but then like restaurants, who goes on a restaurant website besides, looking at the menu or ordering?
Right.
So.
And that's a good example is restaurants. We could talk about restaurants the entire time if we wanted to. Because you already have a customer base, assuming that you're making some sales, you'd be surprised. Almost every customer is going to go look for your website and research you, even if it is just at the menu. I know a lot of times I'm traveling. I want to look at the menu ahead of time. I want to order online. I want to do pickup, and most of our generation doesn't want to get on the phone.
Right.
Plus, there's a lot of mistakes on the phone. I assume that if I order online, it's going to be correct and potentially faster and a little bit more control. So even with a restaurant, it would be critical for them to have a website if it was just informational, if they had happy hours, so that people can learn more and potentially make more orders. I know that with one of the practices we worked with, it was a local psychologist. Mm-hmm. They had a terrible website. It was outdated. It was it looked like someone drew it on a crayon, basically. But they fought us on online scheduling and online payments because they thought, who would do that? Like they need to talk to someone on the phone, they need whatever. They had all these objections to it. And we said, listen, trust us. If you don't make any sales on your website, we'll give you a refund on the entire website. And so we just pushed them into this, and their business has done 300% year over year because they can take online orders. So they have a whole new revenue stream of people that never wanted to make a phone call and never wanted to talk to a human. They just wanted to book and pay online. Yeah,
and especially now with the way generations are going, more and more people want to talk less.
Yeah.
Okay, we get the website up. Nobody knows who you are. Maybe some people know who you are. Maybe you have a couple clients. Maybe you're a brick and mortar store. Maybe you're a restaurant, whatever. And now you have the website up. What's the next step after that?
So you got to look for some kind of sales channel. Mm-hmm. So you want to drive traffic there. You want people to see it. And by traffic, I mean people that are interested in purchasing from you. Mm-hmm. And so you want to figure out how to get eyeballs on your site. So the easiest way is and this isn't the correct term, but I call it guerrilla marketing, is think about flyering and mail marketing and direct response marketing, where your phone calls, whatever it is, you're just literally, in a sense, going out and telling people about your product and how to find it. Okay. So you could have someone stand on a corner and hand out a flyer about your service, and that's going to be very basic, but in the sense, that's the easiest and cheapest way to get your name out there. And the quickest, because if you sit at the corner for 3 hours and you talk to 300 people now know about your business. And so it's that simple. And then you scale from there. You start bringing in more digital strategies like media relations and social media and paid advertising.
When someone is trying to promote their personal brand, let's talk about ads and marketing for a second. Would it be more beneficial to double down on Google ads, or would it be more beneficial to do Facebook ads, YouTube ads? If you were starting over today and you had to build a very impeccable, credible business, and you were just specifically isolating the ads part, which one would you go to or gravitate towards?
So there's no right answer there. Everyone's going to convert differently and have different purposes. So sometimes Google, a lot of times, will have more intent to buy, especially when it's a service and B2B, because they've Google a specific question, or they say, hey, who's the best publicist to hire? We use that keyword to then target that person. They are obviously looking to hire a publicist. Now, if you're running ads on Facebook, you're going to have probably a lower intent, meaning that it's going to be top of funnel in the sense that you're going to attract more people. So you're going to be a little bit flashier and really just try to get more eyeballs in and figure out who is actually interested. So they have different purposes. If you have a lower budget, I would always start with Google because you have that higher intent and you can really dial down on very tight budgets. So if you can only spend $100 a month, I would go with Google. And that would be where I would start. And they have their My Business. Google My Business is the easiest and cheapest way to start, and then of course it gets way more advanced from there.
And those are Google, like where at the top it says ad.
Yeah,
right.
That's where it says ad, and then of course Google My Business, part of it is free, so you can get those Google reviews. On Maps you'll show up, you can get reviews there, and then on Google My Business, before you go to an advanced setting, you can actually start with basic ads, and you'll just put in a couple keywords. It takes about 10 minutes to set up, and then it just runs. And so clients that have very small budgets, that's what we do for them. And we'll make it really simple for them. So if they're going to come in, they're going to do a website and a 2-month project with us, we'll set up Google My Business for them. We'll set it up so it just automatically runs, and then we don't maintain it for them just because it's $100. It's kind of like having your Yellow Page subscription, which I went a little old school there, but that's actually for the specific business I'm talking about that grew 300% year over year. They were using Yellow Pages, and we're like, no, Google My Business. Get your phone number up there, get your address up there, get a couple reviews, and then run $100 of ads, and you were spending $120 on the Yellow Pages. Now spend $100 here, you'll see 10x.
Wow. Okay, so that's the ads side of it, the marketing side. Let's say you want to do branding as far as like marketing and PR.
Yep.
Right? So how does that look? When is the right time for someone to use a PR company to build their brand, their business brand, and when is it not a good time?
Yeah, so I always like the concept of leveling up. So you definitely wouldn't start with PR, and unless you're more advanced or know what you're doing, I wouldn't even worry too much about branding. You need a basic brand, you need something to sell people, but unless that's what you do, it's not that big of a concern because you'll be able to invest in it over and over again, and you kind of, as you scale from 100,000 to 200,000 to $1 million, every time you're going to have to make adjustments to justify that new business growth, and so you'll grow that. Same with your ad spend. Like you don't start off spending $100,000 a month, you start off with $100 a month, and so you'll grow there. But really, what I try to do is kind of everything level. So if I'm going to spend $100 a month on ads, maybe I've spent $5,000 on my website, and I've spent whatever that is, and I have maybe one dedicated person to run all marketing and advertising, and they're kind of spread thin, but they're trying to slowly level it up. And as you grow, you'll increase that. But with media relations and branding, it becomes critical as you're driving more traffic. So if you're able to drive 1,000 leads a month, or you're able to drive 1,000 leads a day, at that point you have an opportunity to close more people. So you have an opportunity cost that you're losing, basically, in the sense of, if my brand isn't up to par, if there's not good reviews about me, if I'm not featured in New York Times, less people are going to buy from me.
Right.
So I've spent to get the money to get 1,000 people on my website, but then I haven't spent the money to sell 1,000 people. And so that's when you really focus. Once you have some traffic and some attention, you focus then, instead of, my goal isn't more traffic and to convert at a 0.001%. Now my goal is same traffic, but to go from that 0.001% to go to 1%.
Right.
And that's by branding and strategy and communications.
Don't you think it's good to do PR prior to running ads? Because let's say if you run ads and nobody knows who you are, the first thing they do, they Google your name and nothing pops up. Versus if you spend money up front, you're not going to have an ROI on the specific PR, but your first page of Google looks like the Taj Mahal. It's gold. And then when you run those ads, they Google you and they're like, wow, this guy, girl, company, corporation, etc. is amazing. They must know what they're doing because they have impeccable reviews, they have impeccable PR. Do you think it's better to, out of the gate, spend money on PR to have a good looking reputation, so when you do run those ads, you're going to have a higher conversion rate? Or do you think it's better to run ads in the beginning?
It's kind of chicken before the egg kind of thing. There's no right answer. Again, the way I view it is, obviously, if you have any traffic coming, and a lot of times people are going to go Google you, especially if it's a more expensive decision, then it would make sense to have some PR. So we'll talk about book launches, because this is something that is written about a lot, because it's a pretty simple process. It's kind of cookie cutter. You're going to start running PR for your book launch 6 months, a year, 5 years in advance. Tim Ferriss talks about kind of how he sold his book, and he did it a lot through media. So he got bloggers to review his book. He'd send samples out. Russell Brunson basically sent out empty chapters, and he'd send out a page at a time, and he'd send out little things to get people excited about the book, and he'd pick who he wanted writing about it, and he'd be working on that conversion in the sense of a publication or a review for 6 months, a year, and he'd get people really excited. He was talking about, I was at a conference he was speaking at, and he sent them $20 bills and had cool basically reasons why he was doing that, and saying, well, every book you sell you get $20, don't miss out, and really just getting people engaged in that process. So he was able to grow that social platform through media,
right,
through those reviews. And so that's going to be a big part of it. So if you have the budget, if you can afford it, absolutely start media right away, because you're going to be able to kind of hit the ground running. Now, if you're a newer business, less experienced, then you got to figure out where to spend your money and what's important, and you'll use free tools like Medium or free platforms to still get your story out there. You can use Instagram. Obviously, all social media platforms are free to you, so you can spend time on those free platforms building your brand if you can't afford or have the time to build it kind of more industrial through the media.
Right, but it's not impossible to run ads with no credibility.
No, it's not impossible, and you'll see...
But to make money at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And you'll see a lot of people do that. You'll see people do it without websites. They'll use... ClickFunnels is one that Russell Brunson were talking about. They'll use basically what's called a funnel or a landing page. So they'll build out a landing page software. They'll build out a specific one-pager that talks about their service, and they'll put any credibility they have, any social proof, their pricing, and direct conversion, and they focus specifically on advertising. For me, the way I like to run my business, I don't see the longevity of that, because I focus on that ad, then converting, and then that being enough money to live off of. Usually you might do that at a break even, and then you'll have other things to grow with those clients. And so that's the critical part, and that's why the website and that base of all your services is so critical to me. And that's why if I was going to start somewhere, it would be, obviously you need a product or a service, but then the next stop for me is that website.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's say you get that. You start the business, get the website, high domain authority stuff. Maybe you have PR, maybe you don't. Maybe you run ads, maybe you don't. What's the next step?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more to our larger businesses, our more established businesses. So you're doing $1 million plus. It's a lot of people can do $1 million plus without a website, without anything. But let's say you have an average website, but and you've been featured in the news a couple times. The next thing that I'd focus on is driving more organic traffic. So anything that I can own. So obviously your email list, driving traffic there, digital presence, but also SEO. SEO is a great opportunity, especially if you're hyper-localized or a very specific niche. So we're media relations. There's over 11,000 agencies across the world. But even in that space, we're able to become an industry leader by, of course, investing more time and money, but there's not that many people that do it right or do it well. So if you're able to focus on the right tools and the right techniques, you're going to succeed. So
it's organic, right?
Organic.
Like Neil Patel style.
Neil Patel, yeah.
Yeah,
So basically,
okay.
when I talk about SEO, search engine optimization, what I'm talking about is you're basically, in my opinion, you're answering a question. Same thing as we're answering a question in this podcast, you'd be answering a question through that blog or that article.
Right.
So it could be very detailed, very long. I love the concept of tutorials. So, if they're asking, how do I write a pitch? That's actually one of our better blogs, because we go very detailed. We show examples of pitches, we show examples of what's good, what's bad, statistically what's worked better, how you get more open rates, things like that. So we've made a very useful piece of material, and a lot of people are always scared. They're like, well, you're giving away all your secrets. And I'm like, those aren't my target audience isn't someone trying to write it for themselves. And if maybe they have some success and then realize that they need to hire someone, or they try it, have no success and realize they need to hire someone, 1 out of 100 people that look at that might be able to glean enough to do something with it.
Right.
So our goal is to give good information and show that we're the experts, but also we're now driving traffic of people that are interested either in being a publicist or getting press coverage. So when it's for hiring, you have someone who's learning PR, so maybe they might not want to work with you right now, they might be too raw, but in 10 years, if they continue down that path, they might be like, oh, I remember that brand, I see that they're hiring, let me go talk to them. And that might be, I learned everything I knew from you guys, which would be a great thing. And then same thing with companies, is if they're using you as their resource, eventually they're going to want to hire you once they get to the level that they can.
Right, once they get to that specific level. You brought up Tim Ferriss, so let's talk about it. 80-20. You want to grow your brand, you want to grow your business, 80-20. What's 80% of the result that I'm going to put 20% of the effort in?
Yeah, so that's always hard, and for every brand it's going to be different, so I can only speak to what I've seen. So I run an e-commerce brand. On my e-commerce side, Amazon is my 80%. I put in very little effort, and it drives the majority of my sales. It's actually 90% of my sales.
You run ads on those?
We run ads on there, but I spent the first couple years as an entrepreneur learning Amazon and really learning how to sell supply chain and e-commerce, but we have a website, and the website makes sales, and it helps for branding, and it helps for conversion, but the sales, the money came from Amazon. So if I spent an hour working on Amazon to improve it, I would see a tick in sales. So anytime I put into that, I see an increase in sales. I spent 10 hours on the website, I might not see the same result in sales. So if you're telling me what do I go spend my time on, it's there. For other companies, for AutoPR, the service side of it, there's going to be bottlenecks, and bottlenecks are, where are you struggling at the time? So as a newer company, you might struggle on the service side of it. So maybe you've been lucky, you made 3 or 4 sales, but you're not executing at the best level. And so a big thing for businesses is have really good case studies. So we're going to go ahead and focus on our service side. We're going to reduce our pricing to get better clients in and get case studies and really hone down that service, build it into a process, build it into a machine, and then, okay, so now we have 5 clients and our service is good. Now my bottleneck is I'm having trouble getting enough sales in. So you've got to figure out, is it, do you need a better sales team? Do you need better lead generation? Do you need to run more ads? And so you're just looking for those weaknesses and kind of dialing in. So right now I'm building a sales development rep team. So they're going to be bringing in more leads for us. I think we have an extremely strong service, but that is our weakness right now is we rely on too many different platforms. Volume. We rely on Facebook, we rely on Google for leads. So if we can bring that internal, and I know that, hey, if I hire 1 more person, I can bring in 20 more leads this month, then I've built a machine. And the goal in any business is to build a machine that makes you money.
For sure. Before we end, I do want to touch on what we talked about with getting ranked organically, right? That's a whole process here. What would be the 80-20 of getting ranked organically? Let's say you have a marketing company. Obviously, there's probably a million marketing companies.
Yeah.
How would you even get close to being ranked on the first page?
Yeah, so if we're just talking about SEO, the quickest way is media. You can work on your
PR.
You can work on your website and your blog and back-end search engine optimization as much as you want. That is a long game. It's expensive. It has to be done right. It's time-consuming unless you're hyper-local.
Like a restaurant.
Because you can be best bar and whatever in 2 days because you're not.
It doesn't help to be. If you're in Tampa, it doesn't help to be on the first page of best restaurants in Toronto.
Right, and so you're not competing with much. But what's super quick and extremely fast to get keywords ranked is websites that already have credibility. So
high domain authority.
High domain authority. So being featured in Forbes, being featured in Entrepreneur, but not all of them have to be super high authority. Medium is a 99 domain authority out of 100. So,
really?
Yeah. So for you guys that don't know, domain authority is just a tool that kind of judges how strong a site is on SEO. So there are a lot of ways to get yourself to rank. And you don't have to do it on your website. You have to reach out, use forums, Reddit. I hate Reddit, but use different forums to get those keywords to rank. And you can also have that point to a blog you've done. And so that you're actually kind of feeding back in, increasing your domain authority. But the quickest and easiest way, if you look at the front page, obviously our website ranks, maybe one blog does. But the rest is going to be review sites rank really well. So if you can get good reviews on Google, Trustpilot, Yelp, whatever those are for your industry, and then some feature articles that have, your name in the title.
And backlinks in there?
Yeah, and backlinks, of course. So backlinks, for you guys that don't know, backlinks are just a link directly to your website.
Right.
And that a lot of them are what's called do follow. So they actually give your website SEO juice.
And the algorithm picks up the backlinks in hand, gets you closer to the top of the rank.
Exactly. So it sees that your website has credibility because, hey, Forbes gave a link to AutoPR. We now think that AutoPR has a little bit more credibility.
Exactly.
And these aren't, the term backlink in SEO can become a very black hat thing. When we view it in media, we view it as feature articles, which are articles about you, guest articles, quotes, things that are published that people can go find, read, and then because they've read it and learned about you, they want to click through and go to your website and drive traffic. So that to me is a real backlink. It's one that is adding credibility. It's basically, if you go on someone's podcast, and they tell their entire audience how great they are, and then on the description they have a link to that website, that's a good backlink to me, because what you've done is you've taken the credibility of that podcast, you've had someone now interested in learning more about you, and then they go click that link. So that, to me, it helps.
Yeah, there's more volume, and then that's kind of like the name of the game with the algorithm SEO. It's volume and then domain authority.
Yeah.
With Trustpilot and stuff like that, do you have to apply to be in those things, or do they just like contact you?
A lot of them will contact you. You have to make portfolios or profiles. So Google My Business is where I'd start. That's the easiest one. You just
the lowest barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's the lowest barrier to entry. It doesn't cost anything. You make an account. If you have 5 clients and they like you, you ask all 5 clients to leave you a review, and don't be afraid to ask your clients to leave reviews. It's critical that you get long, organic, detailed, real reviews. People can see through fake reviews. Don't waste your money or time.
1 star and good.
Yeah, don't waste your money and time on paying for reviews. You really need to get them from real customers, because the algorithms know the difference and people know the difference. Build your reputation correctly. But you can also have those same 5 people then go on Trustpilot and leave a review. There's nothing wrong with that. So there's 20 platforms. So if these customers love you, they can go leave 5-star reviews in 20 places, and it's almost as if you had 20 people leave reviews, but now, G2, Trustpilot.
And they'll all boost your domain authority.
They're all helping. If someone Googles like reviews, like Joe Bob reviews, you're going to see all of these things come up, and you're going to see, even if it is only 5, you're going to see 10 different review sites with 5 or 6 reviews each. And they're all going to be 5 stars.
Which looks good.
It looks good. So maybe it's a newer business, but people trust this business. So when I'm looking at review sites, I always, especially doctors, I'll look at 4 or 5 review sites, because you'll find the true review site. There's always one where that doctor who was 4 stars on one thing is a 1 star, and they'll be detailed about everything he did wrong, and that's what I'm
4
looking
paragraphs
for.
long.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
what
an
I'm
essay.
looking for.
Yeah.
And you have to read those with a grain of salt too, because every company's going to have.
Yeah, because some people, they get mad and they'll just write a review because they're in an emotional state of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of those, especially with doctors. You'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I got billed," and like, well,
They get paid.
Of course you.
Oh, it's not a charity?
It's not a free service.
It's not a charity?
And so you got to be able to read through that and look for disgruntled employees and things, because that's not necessarily fair or a good representation of the business.
Right.
But yeah, review sites.
Awesome. Listen, I think our listeners gained a lot of value in this. I think there's a lot of stuff that people didn't know. How do people reach out to you? Want to come in contact with you? Want to send you money? How's that look?
Send me money. So OtterPR.
Where's your cash out?
OtterPR for all your media needs, of course, and you guys can reach out to me on Instagram. It's FoundScott. I respond to all my DMs personally, so if you have questions, go ahead and send them over there. I'm happy to kind of talk to you guys.
Boom. From Scott to Justin, Justin to Scott. This is Scaling Secret Podcast, and we're out. Bye-bye, y'all.